Welcome back. It's your boy, Dear TKD, with Dear Radio Podcast. A little different now because I am the intro man today. So it might sound a little flowy or whatnot. Dear LeBrink and Dear C's could not join us today, but we got a wonderful guest for y'all. But, I want to start out saying, how you doing, Dear Markel?
I'm well, man. I'm well. How you feeling?
Hey, I'm good, man. I missed the last one, but, we back on this one, so I'm excited.
Seems like every time, somebody's out for some reason. We're gonna have to get back right.
Man. It's all good though. It's all about the guests though. We want to highlight the guests. That's the main thing. So long as somebody, interviewing the guests, show them what they do every day, that's the main factor.
You're right. And with that being said, before we get into the rest of the show, we always base everything off of story time, where we bring a guest in, we talk about the story. So tonight we have another spectacular guest. She's a passionate mental health professional, received her Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology in 2019 from Clark Atlanta University, and her Master's of Science in Clinical Mental Health Counseling in 2023 from Mercer University. She specializes in working with clients, dealing with trauma, and she's also pushing the boundaries for mental health and shaping the way we get through our issues more effectively. Give it up for Marlene.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Welcome. Glad you can make it on. But before we get in further in the show, we always base our story time off of the word of the week, and this week is the word why. So everyone think about what that word means to you during this show, and at the end we'll wrap up and explain what why means to us, and how you can use that word for your daily life moving forward. So Marlene, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Marlene Salters, and I am from Louisville, Kentucky. I decided to move and further my education in Georgia. So, as you said, I received my Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology at Clark Atlanta University. And then I decided to further my education and go to Mercer, and I received my Master's of Science in Clinical Mental Health Counseling. I work at a private practice doing individual therapy for people who experience stress, trauma, anxiety, depression, low self-esteem. I also host a sibling loss support group monthly for those who've experienced sibling loss or sibling estrangement. I think I said that right.
Hey,
So yeah,
that's big. A lot. That's huge.
No, it's huge. You're right. Talk a little bit about like growing up in Louisville, right? You said, is it the basis there? Like you born and raised there, or how that demographically look on your upbringing?
okay. So I was born in Fort Stewart, Georgia. I believe it's called the city's Hinesville, but the military base was Fort Stewart. And then we
Yep.
moved to Louisville, Kentucky, and that's where I was raised. So I always tell people I'm from there because I grew up there. And just growing up there, it was what you made it, I would say. I think, if anything, I knew I wanted to see something bigger and explore. And I felt at the time, just the settings that I was in was a little closed minded. So I was like, you know what? Let me pack my stuff up and go to another city and see what's out there.
That's crazy. You said that. I didn't know you was from Fort. I'm actually from Fort Stewart. I was born in Fort Stewart, Georgia
That's
too. So
crazy.
that's pretty whole world for me.
I've been there too.
Yeah,
My sister went to
that's
Brightwell High School.
I don't even know say.
That's crazy.
That's tough.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Military life, man. Everybody together. Y'all seeing this right now, firsthand. Military life. Y'all see it. I'm telling y'all.
That's a fact. Because I think TK, you in Louisville now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, small circle, man.
Full
Small circle.
bro. It's wild.
But being from Louisville, right, and seeing like the world you see today, what would be some activities you want to see being built in Louisville to entice more creativity or more exciting things to do whenever you're back in the city or whenever you're back in town? Like, what are some things that you've already seen, I guess, from being from Atlanta or just traveling in general, that if Louisville had it, it'd probably be a more, I guess, welcoming city for like our generation and what we like doing?
Hmm. Um, I think that's a tough question
Mm.
considering it'll be going on 10 years next year since I've actually lived in the city, but I do visit about 3 to 5 times a year, but I honestly feel like every time I go back home, there's something new that I always discover, or I see that we've got a soccer team, a women's and men, or there's different attractions like Top Golf or Putt Shack that's been built. And although that's maybe old to, Atlanta or other cities, that's new to us. And I think that's pretty cool. Or even, Gazebo Fest happening, or they used to have, I think it was called Forecaster, or they have all these different festivals that I think are really cool and bring people together. And of course, you have Derby. But I think honestly, Louisville has improved over the years. I think we're evolving, a little bit, maybe a little bit slower than other major cities, but I think we're on our way. I tell people all the time, Louisville is what you make it, and sometimes you have to step out of your comfort zone and kind of explore and see what's out there. You'd be surprised to all the cool shops or restaurants, or even I don't know, like if people are interested in like vintage or thrift stores. There's really cool places, and I'm excited to see where Louisville goes and how they evolve and develop within the next few years.
So I'm actually on the question, Marlene. So talk about your journey from Louisville to Atlanta, like Clark, Atlanta, like your academics and everything. What first off, what high school did you go to in Louisville?
I went to Butler or Suda E. Butler
Okay.
High School
Okay. Okay.
in Shively.
I think I know where Butler is, but like tell us about that experience because I know, Louisville is a little bit different from going into Atlanta. Then you going to Clark, Atlanta, which is a prestigious HBCU. Fun fact: my sister actually went to FAMU, so I know how y'all classes be getting. I know you probably be going crazy out there, so it's just good seeing another HBCU situation. So talk about like that transition of from Louisville to Atlanta.
Okay. So I'll start it with high school. And I think my experience in high school was interesting. I think for me, there was points where I didn't necessarily feel like I fit in, or I felt, ashamed of my skin complexion, or, being darker skinned than other people at my school, or, I mean, kids are going to be kids, and kids can be cruel. And there would be moments in the classroom, if the teacher turned the light off, then someone would joke, whether they were white or black, oh, like, where'd Marlene go? Trying to be funny. But I don't think, kids really understand the impact that has on someone's self esteem. And also, just my experiences at Butler, I was a little nerdy. I don't think I was the cutest. So, it was just different for me. And even I played field hockey in high school. So, that was different. And I played against a lot of Catholic schools. And me personally, I'm not Catholic. So it was just a very interesting time in me trying to figure out where I fit in, and just the friend groups as well. And I had a very diverse friend groups, and I had people who supported me, but I knew that it was something more out there, and I wanted to feel a sense of belonging and finding my identity and just becoming more confident. So it was actually my dad who told me about Clark Atlanta, and how they had a good psychology program. And while I was in high school, I decided to take a psychology class, and it was so interesting just learning how the brain functions and how the mind works. And I'm like, okay, like I think psychology is the field that I want to go in. So I remember the day of me leaving, my dad drove from Georgia to Kentucky. I literally had a going away party. Everyone came to my house. I said goodbye, and then I was on the road, and I didn't look
Wow,
back. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I still have the pictures in one of my photo albums. So it's
That's
it's um,
so
yeah.
getting
So
back to. Oh my bad.
oh no,
Are you going? You
we'll go. Yeah, 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 okay.
keep going.
So then when I got to Atlanta, and Clark Atlanta, like you said, HBCUs, they definitely do it bit different.
They be
And
jumping.
we had like yeah, we had orientation week, and that's where got to know like some of your classmates. They had different workshops, seminars for you to go. They had this like party called Olive Branch between Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark Atlanta, where you get your Clark or Spelman sister, brother, Morehouse. And I didn't attend because it was such a culture shock for me, just being around a lot of African Americans and just, you know, I don't know, it was just a lot to take in because I've been in a diverse setting for so long. So it took me some time to adjust. And I was like, I remember one day just sitting in my dorm and I was like, okay, I want to get active. So then that's when I joined track and then I joined all these other orgs. And then that's when I kind of found my community and like sense of belonging or met other people who had went through, similar experiences that I did similar experiences that I went through in Kentucky. So it eventually got better. And I think moving to Atlanta was probably the best decision that I've ever made. Going to Clark Atlanta was probably the best decision because it really allowed me to be confident in not only myself, but my skin complexion and realizing like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. So, yeah.
Strong. I like that. I like that a lot. I mean, like I said, I remember my sister, picking FAMU back when I was in middle school and like going to the classic, them versus Bethune-Cookman, the band going crazy. I'm like, I already know that's a crazy atmosphere. So then you were saying you said you did track too as well. Mm-hmm. So what'd you run?
The fours, so like 400, 4x. But the crazy thing, I never ran in high school.
Natural.
So talent. I literally.
That's tough.
Hey, you gotta try something.
And I stuck with it all 4 years. So
that's big.
Yeah.
Something made you want to go over there, so it had to be some natural born talent on there. So I feel that.
Yeah.
So kind of going into like your department, your mental health, like what made you kind of want to go with that one? Because I got a following question after you answer something about like where I feel where mental health is at now since COVID. But I want you to go ahead and like kind of explain like what you do and like what made you want to go through that.
Okay, so I would say first what kind of inspired me to go in the field was my father. He worked at this facility called Atlanta Mission, and he was an addiction counselor there. So men, and it's located downtown Atlanta. So men, they go there and they get admitted, and it's like a residential program. So they're, detoxing, they're in different group therapies. And I remember as a little girl, I would visit him. And of course, because of confidentiality and HIPAA, I couldn't sit in sessions, but I remember just sitting in his office and, certain men of the program would come in and just speak so highly of him and just how he's impacted their life. And I was like, dang, like, I wouldn't mind doing that. Like, I wouldn't mind, being a part of something bigger or just helping people. And I think that's kind of what drove me to mental health and just my love for people and just meeting new people, interacting. So that kind of pushed me towards that. And then I think in college, just learning about psychology and all the different subjects in psychology, I think I experienced my first like mental health breakdown. I was like, okay, mental health is real. Like depression is real, anxiety is real. And it just kind of continued further. And I was like, okay, like I'm going to be a therapist. I want to help people. And yeah.
No, that's real. Basically what I was about to say about so do you think that mental health has kind of heightened more since COVID? Because I feel like when we were in closed doors, I feel like we kind of got more emotional, whatnot, because granted, as me and dear Michael, as black men, our dads were very strong-minded. You couldn't really show emotion. You couldn't really cry. Military background for him, military background for my dad. Like, I know his dad really well. He's very stern. Dear Michael knows my dad very well. He's also very stern. So, like, understanding that, I feel like with COVID, mental health kind of got pushed a little bit more forward, where you getting more ads of saying, hey, get help. But I feel like as kids, like kind of back to what you were saying, like, oh, when they turn the lights off, like saying with me, like if you smile, it's only just white teeth, stuff like that. Like you kind of like have that already in your mindset, like as a joke, but in reality, like that's low key not even funny. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of borderline, you know. So do you feel like it's like more heightened now because we were so secluded in during COVID, where we had to be with each other?
I think it's a couple of factors. Back in 2020, I think, the Black Lives Matter movement played a big part.
Yeah,
And,
that's big.
and not that these things were just now happening, because they were happening way before, but the fact that they're being, recorded, and we had so much access to these videos and just online, that stirred up a lot of emotions for people. And then, people aren't working anymore. So they're forced to face, face with their families, one. And especially if you don't have a good um, home dynamic. And then also, a lot of times people distract themselves with work to cope with what they're dealing internally. So I definitely think that COVID heightened, um, mental health. And then also, there was plenty of times, even me personally, like, what does this pandemic look like? How long is this going to last? Am I going to make it through this pandemic? Am I going to be the ones that get sick? So it's a lot of different, things going on at once. So I definitely think I think COVID was one of those things that had everyone to sit down, and you were forced to sit down with those problems, or forced to really, be with your family or whoever you lived with, or just sit and just kind of wait it out. So yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, I just really feel like,
No,
oh, you want to go ahead, Mike?
no, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Just finish what I was saying. It's like, I feel like with you being at the apartment, that's why when dear Mike told me, I was like, yeah, I really want to like kind of pick your brain and figure out, because like you said, it's always been there. The Black Lives Matter situation, like it's been happening to, people that look like us a lot, and people weren't really like thinking about it. But now as we getting older with social media, you can just go like this, show somebody something, and they all can see that. So I'm glad that, you're in that field, a person of color. I feel like that's very awesome, because I want people to understand it. Because like I said, with 2020, I know a lot of people said it was the worst time, but it was the best time of my life. I had my son. I got time to spend with my son and whatnot. Like I really realized like who I was trying to be. Now, granted, there's more years to come where I can be different, but I feel like I got my mental right. That's what I feel like I got out of, the 2020 COVID and whatnot. Just like really understanding mental health. Like you said, this is really a thing. Like, why couldn't I cry when I stubbed my toe when I was 12 years old? My dad was like, no, I'll throw some dirt in. Like, it's okay to show emotion. So that way I tell my son, like, hey, mental health is a serious thing. You got to make sure your mental's good at all times.
Yeah, for sure. And were you going to say something, Michael?
No.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that's being more talked about, and I can relate a little bit. As far as growing up, we didn't really talk about mental health. Not that it was more of a hush hush, but that just wasn't a conversation that was being had. We weren't really learning about depression. We weren't learning about anxiety. I think maybe in school we touched a little bit, about suicide, but I didn't really understand it until, later on. So I definitely think, you know, just the way of technology, and now things are remote. And I think that's one good thing that COVID did was, making things more remote and accessible. So to the point where you don't even have to leave your home. Like for me, I know I do therapy online, and my sibling law support groups online, and that's able to cater to someone who may be. I think I had someone all the way in the UK. So
it's crazy.
Yeah.
That's good though.
Yeah, that's nice.
Really good. That's really good.
We're more global now, more than ever.
Yeah.
Like you said, more access to the world, more access to information, and being remote allows us to have the access to really, the whole global. And if you can reach to, one person down the road, why can't you reach somebody across the world, right? So I think it's important that we have the opportunity, and it's a good thing we have the opportunity too. So kudos to you, and we appreciate you for even stepping up to even want to partake in the activity and the pressures that come along with that. And I'm assuming that obviously it not only you serving somebody else, but I'm assuming it serves you as well, and becoming a deeper sense of who you are, what you want to become, and obviously just becoming better. So again, we take our hats off to you because it's important. And I think you're bringing a positive light to this. More people should be aware of it if they're not already. And it's just taking a step in the right direction for just a culture, in my opinion. But I want to kind of move into like the next question because you're specializing in working with clients dealing with anxiety, depression, and trauma, right? So like, can you share a particular memorable success story where you felt that it was a significant impact in the client's life? And like, how did you experience like affirm your career choice? Like, did that decision after you got a confirmation, like you really helped this person and it felt good to you, did this reaffirm like, oh, this is exactly what I need to be doing, this is why I'm doing this? Like, how can you take us through that thought process in that journey?
So of course, with HIPAA laws and confidentiality, I can't really disclose any personal information, but I'll keep it more broad and general. I think the most rewarding part is when that light bulb turns on for them and they're able to look at a situation from a different perspective, or they're able to discover something that they might have not even known about themselves, or even knew, or even bringing it to therapy. Sometimes people come to therapy for one thing, but then they end up discovering multiple layers or different things that they also want to address. So I think that's pretty cool. And then also, how I know that progress is being made through the treatment plan and reevaluating goals. So a lot of times, you know, every so often, I like to say, okay, let's see where we're at with your therapy goals that you listed at the beginning. And, I think it's pretty cool when they're like, you know what, I feel good about this goal, or I feel that I've accomplished, and, me giving them feedback as well. So definitely are, I think, also what's pretty cool is hearing, well, this happened, but I remember to use my coping skill. I remember to do what we talked about in therapy. So, yeah. So, even small progress is progress. So I look at it, a win's a win.
Yes.
That's big. No, you're right about that. And also like read online that you have a support group, a grief support group, to be more specific. It's called Edward's Corner, which is a beautiful tribute to your brother. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how this impacted not only you but the members as a part of it and a part of you all's healing process? Can you talk about obviously the overall aspect of that?
Yeah. So, my brother Edward, he passed away September 1st, 2022, and it was an unexpected death. He was only 33 years old, so we were like,
Sorry for your
really,
loss.
I think the whole thank you. I think the whole family were taken back by it. And I think, people don't expect your sibling to pass before your parents. So it definitely was like, woo. But in the midst of it, just the grieving process was, of course, hard, and a lot of hard nights and crying spells. But no one really tells you how to cope with it after the funeral and after the check in calls stop. And I was like, man, let me, how can I support others that might have, went through the same thing? Or I was looking to see if there's, a lot of sibling loss support groups, and there is some, but they're more so in general support, grief support groups. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a sibling loss support group, and I'm going to open it up to people who've not only lost a biological sibling, but someone who they felt was, just as close as a biological sibling, or someone who's grieving a sibling who's still alive. So the estrangement part. And I think it's really been impactful for, strangers to come together and feel that they're able to be vulnerable and share their experiences. And although they may not know each other, and rather they lost their sibling, a year ago or 10 years ago. There's some, similarities or connections that they're able to make in the group, and they're able to support one another. And I think it helps me too, to heal, and it allows me to hear, how other people coped, or I think also them hearing a little snippet of my experience allows them to see that they're not alone. And then also as a therapist standpoint, because when you think about it, therapists, we don't really disclose a lot of information about ourselves because we're not supposed to. But when it comes to my sibling, like I don't mind sharing that information if that is if that's a way to help someone or give them some type of comfort or support. So.
That's big time.
Really
I think
big.
that's super important. Yeah, it's super important that you did that. Um,
Yeah.
Touching on that, you said, counselors don't really, or therapists don't really, obviously they grieve in their own right and they kind of lock things up because you can't obviously talk about the things that you're going through. You can't disclose certain information. Is there, like, outside of what you just kind of briefly touched about creating the group, is there any other ways that have you seen like therapists cope or grieve or obviously just try to be themselves or try to find passion projects to alleviate some pain, or like what does that look like for therapists? 'Cause I can only imagine you're serving all these people that's going through things, but finding an outlet for yourself, I would assume is challenging if you don't have one. I would think that might be why you're becoming a counselor or a therapist, in my opinion. Obviously, I don't know too much, so that's kind of why I want to get your thoughts on. Have you spoken to any other therapists outside of yourself that kind of have that type of personality, or find different ways to kind of outlet to find how they can actually distribute the pain or grief or whatever they're going through in a moment to kind of become the better version of themselves so they can still do their job at a high level?
Yeah, so I think of multiple things that so there are therapist support groups. So therapists can come and, vent or share similar struggles, and that's, a safe space for them to feel comfortable being human, because we all are human and we all go through things. I also think about, your own self-care regimens. Like for instance, for me, my self-care regimen, one of them would be sitting in silence after a long day. So whether that's me sitting in my car in silence, or when I come home, not answering any phone calls and just really being still for a second, and grounding myself. I know some therapists who, do yoga or meditation or workout. So I really think it just depends on the person, per se, but I know there are support groups, or even when I was in the mental health program in Mercer, they would always say every therapist needs a therapist. And, even me, like I've have had therapists in the past, rather there was something going on or something that wasn't going on, just to make sure that my mental is in check and I'm doing okay.
Right. Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's man. I can't on the words right now. I gotta get my process back going. You said a lot. That was very deep though, for real. Because I was gonna ask a question like that. Basically, like I know you dealing with a lot on your plate, and you just a situation about something. Sorry for your loss about your older brother and everything like that. Like you getting countless, jobs of people talking about their stories and whatnot. Like you sitting in silence, I feel like that's a big thing because I believe in that too. After my job's nowhere near as hard as yours, because man, girl, you got you got a job, but like just sitting in silence, understand like, hey, I'm human. Might have made a mistake earlier today. Like this sign, figuring everything out, and then kind of just going right back into it. But that's a lot. So I got another question for you. What do you define as like success? Like in your like what you're doing every day, like how like your counseling, I know you can't disclose a lot of things like when people do good or when do bad, but what would you define as success in your department right now?
Hmm. Far as in me, or just in general?
Well, you can start with just you and then general too. We can kind of split off into two questions.
So what I defined as success is everything that I've been doing up until this point. So going to school, graduating, taking my license test this year, passing, completing my associate license application, and that's being in the process of being reviewed. Just different things like that that I know I need to do in order, to progress and also become a full licensed therapist. So that's what I view as success. And then also when I think about, clients, showing up for them and being there for them and just helping them through their journey and us accomplishing goals, like that's successful to me because that means, okay, I'm getting through to them. We're working through our issues, whether it's taking us 2 weeks or a month or a year, but we're getting through that. When I think of a general aspect, I think it can be, subjective. Whatever you think success looks like for you. And I'm also realizing when you think about the word success and just, everything behind it, that you define what success is. And, everybody's path is different. And what may look like success to me may be different. Sometimes people, relate success to the amount of money that they're making or, the amount of lives that they're impacting. So I think it varies.
Yeah.
No, that's big.
Kind of off the piggyback that, kind of like in another sense of another question, do you feel like, because I feel like I've been doing this more lately, probably in the last couple of years, do you feel like counting your small wins as bigger wins is a good way of like coping or like understanding things? Do you use that like as a virtue of telling people like, hey, if you got this small win right there, don't be like, oh, I could have did better. You actually still won that. Do you use that as a thing?
Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge, the small progress. You could, for instance, what example comes to mind? A resistant client who, is stuck on certain habits and doesn't want to change. And then one day they decide, okay, you know what? I'm going to take a leap of faith. Or I think about people who have phobias, but they decide they're gonna, face their phobias or even look at a video of someone facing their phobias. Like small, like you said, small progress is still, a win. I definitely think about giving yourself grace, and that's something that I need to practice. Sometimes I don't always give myself grace, even when it is the small things that I accomplish. I have to tell myself, like, okay,
I feel you.
you could have did it differently or could have did it this way, but you still were able to get it done. So definitely giving yourself grace.
No, I feel like that's what I'll be talking to dear Michaela about, because I got a YouTube channel that I do for gaming and whatnot. Just they sticking on like, okay, at least you did get a video out. It might not have been the best, but you have some type of content out there for my fans and everything like that. Basically with the radio show too as well. But I've been really trying to work on small wins to actually boost my confidence out more.
Yeah, and I think that's important because you never know, even if it didn't perform in the way that you expected, you never know who you might be impacting. And I think I can relate with that because there would be times, even with my sibling loss support group, or I used to do back in college, I used to do a self-care support group. And I would get down on myself if it was only like one or two people. But the fact that I still went through with the group and we were able to talk and get through things, like you never know, like that could have benefited them. Or I've had people thank you for continuing the group, even though it's not a lot of people. So I definitely say keep going.
I appreciate that. And I got one more last question I want to ask. So other than, sitting in silence and everything like that, what would be another self-care thing that you do if you want to disclose that? I know people like to keep things to themselves sometimes, just the nice ones. But if you want to disclose this, if you can just give us maybe one more that you do that the audience maybe can work on themselves.
Okay. Yes. So I think I made this up, or maybe this was already out, but I call it the 48-hour rule. So if I receive a text or an email or just some type of form of communication that I have to respond to that I feel that is going to disturb my peace or mind or make me upset or just whatever, cause some type of friction, I won't respond until a day or two later when I have my thoughts together, when I've been able to process everything and respond. I also think to piggyback off of that, I'll give you an extra one. Letting my friends know where I'm at mentally. Sometimes I'll say, hey, today I don't have the mental capacity to talk, but if you want to send me an audio or if you want to call me a different day, then I'm willing to do that.
Mm.
So setting those boundaries.
That is huge.
That is huge. It's huge. I don't think we do that enough.
That's what I was about to say. I'm
Especially,
like,
you know, your close.
that's
I
big.
don't think we do that enough.
No, nobody's like, hey, not today. You,
Well, I mean, that's it's like you say, like it's interesting you say that because, as you know, like there's no perfect science to humans. Like, you know, we
Yeah.
just don't really know what the emotion could be at any given time. There's no really like evidence of why you feeling this way or why you don't. And sometimes we just don't know why we feel that way, and that's okay too, right? But it's very imperative that you do say that, especially with people you're close with. And if you can actually convey those emotions when you feel them, it's like, yo, I don't feel like talking right now, but check back with me in 2 days. And if you can really determine like who's your real friends, you know, if they don't ever talk to you again because of that moment, you know, like that's not your friend. You know, if they really check on you in a couple of days later, you know, to make sure that you're fine. Obviously, that should be somebody that you can count on in time of anything. I would hope so. I don't think we do that. I could be wrong, but I don't think we do that enough. And I'm glad that you said that because people, it's okay to distance yourself if you need to for the audience listening, because you're not gonna have it all together at any time in your life, right? Like I'm assuming Jeff Bezos, one of the most wealthiest men in the world, still waking up like, what am I doing today? Like I don't think
got to.
everybody has it all put together, and you shouldn't, right? Like that's the journey of life. You know, we gotta live in the present, and that's our gift. So just being able to share that, I think, is important. I think we try to do that in our friend group. I know LeBranc, he'll let me know every now and then, like, hey, I can't make it today, or I just need a mental break, or I need some time away. And obviously, you know, we're able to do that and give him the time he needs. But in general, just being able to push that boundary, just to be able to show that emotion, just to be able to give yourself grace, is very, very important for you just to have day to day operations for yourself. So, you know, that's super important that you said that. And I'm glad you brought that up. And moving into, um, I guess, like you said, post COVID and kind of taking things remotely, just having the ability to connect with a lot of diverse backgrounds in itself is a unique strength that everybody can't do, but you can. And I think that's another reason why you called to do that. So you just obviously pinpointing more strengths that you have and just continue to, you know, convey your messages and being able to listen to people. I think they feel very comfortable with you. And that's another reason why I think you're doing really well in this and wanting to passionately get better at it. But what are your like key elements, if you can disclose that, like behind building genuine connections with clients nowadays that's more virtual and online rather than in person, in a therapy setting? Like how do you maintain the I guess an in-person type of relationship when it's online now?
Yeah. So I think the key elements to building genuine connections with clients are kind of, regardless if it's online and in person, is creating a safe space. So, of course, being warm and welcoming, and of course, smiling here and there doesn't hurt. Being an active listener, that's really important, and being present, and just, giving off those, nonverbal cues like head nodding and, just showing that you're engaged with them, showing empathy. I think that goes a long way, not even in therapy, but just in relationships in general. And then being relatable. Like I said, we as therapists, you're not allowed to disclose a lot of information, but there's, something that you feel related, or something that maybe be a little bit relatable to the client. I think, that helps as well. I don't think being robotic is the way to go when building that rapport, and then also being genuine and authentic. And these some of these clients, they've been to therapists before, or they may be coming to you to end a previous relationship because they felt that they lacked, a connection with them. So it's definitely important to, show up being yourself and just being genuine and just present with them.
That's an, that's super important. I kind of wanted to know what that was like. But again, I think that's a personality trait rather than just, I guess, the work itself. And again, if you had that type of personality trait that shows that, it allows you to be more successful, a little more warming, a little bit more passionate, and a little bit more feeling more gratitude towards people because of that. So, um, but looking ahead, like, what are your aspirations for the future? Like, how do you see the role that you're partaking in now evolving in the mental health field? And are there any other projects you're excited to pursue, or anything that's outside of the mental health space that you would like to pursue? Like, what does that look like for the future for yourself?
Yeah. So for the future, what that looks like for me is getting my full license. So, with this whole process, it's a process within yourself. You take the license test, then you have some paperwork for the associate license application. Then once you're approved, you're getting 3,000 hours, obtaining 3,000 hours in direct experience, and then I believe you fill out another application, and then hopefully all things go well, you get approved by the board. So that's what the future looks like for me. I definitely wouldn't mind opening my own private practice and working for myself. I think that would be pretty cool. There's a couple of different positions that I wouldn't mind trying, like being a college counselor for a university or contracting out. So just different things. There's no new project just yet, but I am excited to network and connect with other people or organizations in the future. I definitely wouldn't mind going back to my alma mater like Clark Atlanta or Mercer and speaking about, my experience in the program and talking a little bit about my mental health expertise.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
Any direction you're going in that way, I think would be tremendous. And you starting your own business, and that would be, again, another tremendous thing. And we're so fascinated and welcoming to what your journey looks like, and want to obviously continue to partake in that. And that's be super fun for us to kind of follow up and continue checking on you
for
as you
sure.
continue growing in your career. And we'd love to, obviously, if there's anything we can do on our end, just to show up and show support. Obviously, we want to be able to do that as well. Um, I guess to kind of wrap it up a little bit, like, reflecting on your journey, like, who are the key figures who supported or inspired you along your way in this journey, and how have they influenced your path? And, like, what message would you share with them today?
Um, I like this question. So I would say my deceased brother. Although it's definitely been a lot of pain that's come with his death, but in a way, he's made me change for the better. I think I've learned a lot from his death, and it's pushed me to, live more intentionally. And he's kind of been the main source of my motivation to keep going because I know that he's no longer physically on here, and I can see him. I can hear him now saying, "I'm proud of you, little sis." So that's definitely been a motivation. My family and just my support system overall. I always tell them that we didn't when it comes to me getting my master's or just anything that I've accomplished because without the support, honestly, I don't know where I would have been. And then, of course, um, just yeah, just really mainly those things, and then of course God and my faith in Him and staying faithful and prayed up has definitely helped me get through it. And what was the last question? What would I want to say to them?
Yep.
Honestly, just thank you. And to my brother, like, thank you for all that you did while you were on this earth. And I hope you're proud of me and watching over me and um, wait to what I do next. Mm.
No, that's beautiful.
That is
We
beautiful.
appreciate that. Nah, for sure. And as we said, to wrap it up, towards the end of the show, we like to end the show with word of the week. And this word of this week is why. So I want to ask the group, like, what does the word why mean to you, and how important or beneficial is it to understand your why as you continue to progress in whatever path that you feel is necessary for you in your journey? Marlene, do you want to start with that?
Sure. It's funny because in an article I was featured in um, a while back, I talked about knowing your why. I think that could mean multiple things. Knowing, what drives you to get up in the morning. What's your motivation? What's your purpose? Why are you doing the things that you're doing? And relating it to me, when I feel that I'm lacking motivation or I'm doubting myself, I ask myself, what is your why? And my why is to help people, to connect with others. And, whether that's in therapy or just being a good friend or a good partner, family member, like that's my why. And I think it's important in those moments of feeling, down or hopeless, like to remember your why and why you're doing the things that you're doing. Because there was plenty of times in grad school where I wanted to give up and be like, you know what, I'm full of this, I'm
Yeah.
done. But I'm like, no, what's your
Right.
why? What's your purpose in doing this? So yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she kind of hit on the head. She said everything I was going to say. Well, not everything, because she said it way better than I was going to say ever. But like just being the why far as a situation, that's like when I think about the word why, is because you wanted to. You were put on this earth to do something that God's put in everybody's body. I feel like He had a purpose for you to be in that situation or not be in that situation. So that's the why. It's, you can't say why me, why that. It's because it is you. You can't question what He
Yeah.
has in store for everybody. You just got to hit it head on and be like, hey, you put me in this situation. I know why you did it, and let me go get it. So that's kind of what my why is, when I think about that being for the word of the week.
No, that's a good one. I guess for me to pick back on that is I use the word why more so as like an indicator of progress. The why can kind of change, right? I think as you get more mature within yourself, as you get further in your journey, um, the level of what that why meant in the beginning may change as you continue to grow. But um, it is an interesting indicator of where you want to become and where you want to go. Because again, I think we have this misconception of what is success, right? I think Marlene touched on it earlier, and it's like the perception of it is, am I making this amount of money? Am I living in this type of neighborhood? Am I driving this type of car? But the truth is, like, do the people in your house love you? Like, that's success, right? Do you love the people in your home? Are you creating an environment that's important to you? That's success as well. And I think, are you waking up every day doing some things that you would like to do or would love to do? I think that in itself is success. And I think that's the passion that comes with the why. Because if you start and begin something that you're passionate about today and you're still doing it a year in, you're becoming more and more of a professional of that, right? And I think you perfecting that craft in those days, in those moments, in the present, sets you on that journey. And I think if you're doing it for that long, those many hours, those many times you have to sacrifice, like that qualifies you as a person that is on the journey, that is actually doing the things that you want to do. And to me, I think that's success. And I think that's why I use the word why as an indicator of where I'm at, because there's times like you say, I don't really want to do this or I really don't want to do that, but that's a part of it. I don't think a lot of people want to do a lot of things, but we have to go and do these things for a better outcome. And it's very important that we do that as people, as a society, as humans, just to push the world better, right? We want to make it better than where we left it. So that's kind of what why means to me. And I hope that it gives a sense to the audience to find what their why is, to continue their journey and their progress, and find the right people that want to support their why, and vice versa. And I think if you do that with the right people, the sky's the limit. And I think, you go really far. So again, Marlene, thanks for joining our show. Thanks for
Appreciate you.
being on, obviously being a guest for us. And we love the story that you shared. And we want to continue to follow your journey. So without further ado, can you shout out your socials so we can all partake in that and continue to follow your journey?
Yes. And thank you all for having me. This was really great. So I do have a mental health page. It is called at Mental by Marley. So MENTAL Marley, MARLEY.
Thank you. Thank you. TK, brother, shout out your socials for us.
Yep, you already know the YouTube channel, TKD2 Gaming. Subscribe to that. Twitter, never the X. We don't use X around here, Marlene. We only use Twitter. _ TKD2 Gaming. Instagram, TKD2 Gaming as well. And yeah, I really appreciate you. I was very excited you can ask dear Michael, because the whole mental place of that, like I said, post COVID, it has changed so much. And now with you being in that field, it's like kind of cool, talking with you and like after this, like just seeing what you've done and everything like that. Cause I just know my progression of the mental health is going to get better and better now with me knowing you and obviously what I've already known. So I just really appreciate you and for all that you've already done too.
Thank you. I appreciate you all giving me the opportunity to be able to speak and share my perspective. This is really great. So thank you all.
Thank you.
And to follow it up, our actual podcast channel show and titles, credentials is Dear Radio Show on all socials. So you can follow us on there. We're just now starting to post on socials a little more. We've been doing this for about, we're in 4th season now. So you'll start to see things roll over as we continue to post more content. We just started a YouTube channel. So be on the lookout for that, long form and short form content. But Dear Radio Show is where you can find us at to continue to follow our journey and continue to watch each guest and what they have to offer. We do have a voicemail number that you can dial in, and there's certain words of the week you want to hear, or just certain things you want to know about, what we have going on in the future, or if there's something that actually you want to be a part of, just call this number at 859-363-5365. It's going to be a long dial tone, but after that, you can leave a voice message and we'll make sure we get back to it to make sure that you are on as a guest or whatever you are seeking to do. We'll make sure we get back to you and follow up with you. But other than that, again, thank you, Marlene, again, and we'll see you all next week, same time. Peace.
Peace.